been 2 weeks since I sold everything I owned to travel the world. As I was leaving, a lot of people were asking me the very common questions. The where are you going? How long are you going for? Why are you going there? And the why are you going there question is the one that seemed to pop up the most often. I mean, I did pick some pretty random destinations, and I always kind of have. I've just sort of picked somewhere and went. And I never really thought about why. So I wanted to get into that a little bit. Because, well, we're finally going on our first day trip to the city of Annecy today. It's a small town. It's called the Venice of France. It's picturesque and beautiful, but for the most part, I picked it at random. And I picked spots at random long before I started the Living Abroad vlog. Before we get into Annecy, I have to go back a little bit to get into how this random place logic started with me. First time I ever really did it, I went somewhere totally random, had not a clue of what I was doing. So when I was 18, I originally went to Italy, to Rome, to see some family. And this time I wanted to go see a different country. I wanted to check something off my list. So I said, it's close. And the closest place was Zurich, Switzerland. I get off the... It's making me laugh just thinking about it. Get off the plane, get onto the train, go to the city center. And so I thought, worst case scenario, I'll get a cab to get to my hotel because I didn't have any data. I go up to this taxi driver, I show him my location, like where I was staying, and he drives me about 45 seconds away to my hotel. Ended up charging me like $10 or something for it. It was ridiculous. Like it was literally probably a 2.5 minute walk. It was insane. I ended up being there for a single night and had one of the best times. I ended up going to the casino, meeting this guy, and we hung out all night and ended up staying up so late that I slept through my alarm, missed my tour. There's so many things that can happen, like again meeting that guy and missing my tour made me realize how much I really just don't want to go to places that are necessarily tourist stops. I want to go to places that are unique and different, and places that people don't go, and do it in a way people don't do, and it gives you a much more real and authentic experience. And I guess that's the answer. I've always wanted the raw travel experience. I wanted the surprises and the things to pop up that I wasn't expecting. Okay, I'm getting the whole Venice of France vibes pretty quickly. I did do some research beforehand just because there's been a transit strike going on, so if it wasn't for the transit strike, I wouldn't have looked this place up at all. And I would have been quite pleasantly surprised. Like really pleasantly surprised. Like this is really cool. I feel like this is what I've always wanted to find is little alleyways and those little back kind of areas where you can just go and say what's down here, and you kind of wind through and you don't really know what you're going to come out into. But when you try to find the hidden gems, sometimes you just find the gems. Well, this is really what everybody comes here for, is that picture right there. And even though it's a little bit touristy, I mean, I really don't mind. It's a beautiful spot here. Like, beauty is beauty sometimes. It's funny, you can commercialize something all you want, but when something's beautiful, it's beautiful. Sometimes it's kind of hard to ruin the beauty of a place. Part of that beauty is the feel. We start to get a feel for Annecy as we head to the next place. This town just has a very different feel about it. I'm really not sure what it is. Jessica here just made the point about it feeling a little bit dark and ominous and empty and a little eerie, and Prague's kind of a similar place. And so we see this church in the distance, and it does look like something I've seen in a picture, so I kind of already know what it looks like. And the similarities to Prague reminded me how I started to make my travels more unknown and obscure. So what Jessica and I used to do when we had planned trips before we started on this adventure is we'd take one suggestion, like Prague was an example of a place that we went where somebody said, you gotta go to Prague, it's a beautiful city. And then we basically just picked Vienna and Munich to go to just because they're close, and hey, why not go there? And on top of that, Jessica would be the one that would actually plan the trip. I'd tell her, don't tell me where we're going, what we're doing. She used to be a travel agent, so she knew what she was doing. So I'd just tell her, plan the trip. So this taught me to create the best experiences I could by not doing any research. I think it's why people actually want to travel most of the time. They want to experience that, unexpectedness, that culture shock, Jessica's struggling over here. We have walked up quite a bit. It's a massive church. I'm kind of amazed how peaceful it is here. I mean, kind of thought there'd be a bunch of people taking pictures like there was at that kind of triangular canal spot there, but there's not, and you pretty much get 360-degree views up here. This is worth it just for the views. As I was sitting in this church, I thought back and I reflected to some of my past travel experience, and it's places like this that really remind me why I travel to the places I do, why I decide on the destination that I decide on. There's tons of beautiful churches I've been to, there's tons of beautiful churches in the world, but sometimes it's just finding that one unique one that not a lot of other people have seen, and you could never really plan your trip around something like this. You wouldn't plan a whole entire trip to see a church. It's these smaller places that are much more reflective of a real society, of a real town or village or culture or people. So I guess the moral of the whole story is that, you know, sometimes the culture and the people you meet and the accidents that happen is more enjoyable than the trip itself or the destination or what you're going to see. After walking around for a bit, we were quite chilly, so we picked a pub, at random of course, to have a beer and warm up. We paid absolute tourist prices. It was €19 for 2 beers, which is like 27 Canadian or something like that. Like it's an insane price, just like insane for 2 beers. So we're gonna go walk around a little bit now and then see what else we can get into, but I don't know, I think that's an insane price. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I think that's pretty wild. See, it's also places like this where I just, not only do I go to random cities, I just walk randomly. Oh, what's down this place? Oh, what's down that place? Like, I do it for a reason. It's because you just stumble into stuff and you start making a set route, following a GPS. You just don't get the same surprise and experience. Like this random form of travel, you just turn a corner and it just creates that kind of shock and awe that is really hard to get if you plan everything to a T. We enjoyed this beautiful city a little bit more. We continued to take the back alleys and the random turns, but we were getting kind of tired. We've seen most of what there was to see, walked up and down all the hills, and it was starting to exhaust us. So we decided to sit down at a pub and relax until our bus arrived. Well, we're getting ready to head home and I have one last story for you. So a few years back, Jessica ended up winning a trip to Mexico. And it was an all-inclusive resort in Cancun. And it was the first time in my life where I had been to a all-inclusive resort. And honestly, it's something I never really cared to do. And this is one of the things that cemented going to random and unknown destinations to me, because I had never done that before. I had never been to an all-inclusive, but it was one of the best times I've ever had. So the whole point of this video wasn't just about unknown destinations. It was also about unknown experiences as well. It's one of the reasons that I'm in Annecy right now. But it's time to go home. And, well, guys, I was out cold on the bus, but we're back in Grenoble now, so that kind of concludes our trip for the day. I'm glad you can come along for the ride. If you enjoyed the journey and you had some fun coming along today and you learned a few things maybe, whether about me or whether about Annecy, please consider subscribing. I'll be posting 2 times a week for the foreseeable future, but until next time, we'll see you.